All right. Well, without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. Today, we have the executive director of the Kentucky Horse Council, Sarah Coleman, with us today. And as an avid equestrian, Coleman grew up in Northeastern Ohio and graduated from the Scripps School of Journalism at Ohio University. She moved to Kentucky in 2004 to work with multiple equine and agriculture-related publications. She shifted to equine-oriented roles at Lexington Catholic High School and Georgetown College before transitioning to the Community and Public Relations Director for New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program. In that role, Coleman oversaw the construction of New Vocations at Mareworth Farm and established a New Vocations all-thoroughbred charity horse show at the Kentucky Horse Park, among other endeavors. She's been in her role with the Kentucky Horse Council since October of 2020. Coleman also serves on multiple equine boards and committees, including Secretary and Treasurer of the Kentucky Hunter Jumper Association, a member of the UK Saddle Up Safely program, and a member of the Kentucky Horse Breeders Incentive non-fund race committee. She continues to work as a freelance writer for several publications, including Hobby Farms, Midwest Harness Report, Horse Illustrated, Equestrian, Kentucky Equestrian Directory, Business Lexington, and Young Rider, and serves as a contributor to the Pollock Report. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll hand the floor over to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for letting me come to chat with you. Pretty much I was just going to go over the role of the Kentucky Horse Council, why we were started, what we do, all that good stuff. A lot of people, in the horse industry, there's a lot of alphabet soup, right? So there's the Kentucky Horse Council, there's the Kentucky Equine Education Project, there's the Kentucky Breeders Incentive Fund. There's all these acronyms, and sometimes it's really hard to keep them all straight. And not only is it hard to keep their names straight, it's even harder to keep what they do straight. So I'm going to try to tell you guys a little bit about the Kentucky Horse Council, and there's only 3 things that you guys need to remember about our Horse Council. Our mission is to lead, educate, and protect. So I'll go through a little bit and talk to you guys about the role of the Horse Council and how we got started. So we all know, that Kentucky is the horse capital of the world, right? We stand behind it. We know that we're not just thoroughbreds. We encompass all breeds and all disciplines. And that was really what the Kentucky Horse Council was designed to do. So back in the probably late 1970s, the then governor at the time, had said, I'm going to create a task force of horse lovers to figure out why Kentucky is so unique and why people want to come here and see our horses and learn about, our industries and all that kind of stuff. So it is not a government organization. So like my email is not a .gov email. We were basically created in 1970 to try to figure out what makes Kentucky so special. So those people on that task force, the task force went on until the early 1990 was when it was disbanded by the governor at the time. He had thought that, they knew everything they needed to know about the horse industry in Kentucky. And a whole bunch of people rallied around and said, no, oh my gosh, we still have so much to learn. We still have a lot of ways we need to highlight the importance of the horse industry to the world, not just within the United States. So in 1992, the Kentucky Horse Council became a 501c3 charity. So the things we're most known for, other than leading, educating, and protecting the Kentucky equine community, is these license plates. So if you guys see these license plates on the road, that is the main source of funding for the Kentucky Horse Council. We are the foal lying in the grass. I love that plate. Will be very honest, I had that plate long before I knew what it even funded. So we're known for more of our programming. So what we consider programming is those things we offer that provide education and resources to the public at large. So I'll kind of walk you guys through some of those, but we have what's called our SOHO fund. It's our Save Our Horses fund. So it is basically financial resources that are designed to help horse owners who are in need. So whether they lost their job, they got sick, they got divorced, they moved, if there's some extenuating circumstance that they can't afford specific things for their horses, whether that is euthanasia because their horse is old and sick, if it's gelding because they have a little colt that doesn't need to be a colt anymore. Or if it's feed and hay assistance. Those 3 programs are available to anybody in the state of Kentucky that needs it. And pretty much all that any of you, so if you guys have any friends that they need a little bit of help, they can just go to the Kentucky Horse Council website and they can, in the little search bar, type in there what they're interested in, feed and hay assistance, SOHO program, anything like that, and it will come up. And it's very, very basic. It basically just says, how many horses do you have? And how can we assist? So the feed and hay assistance will provide feed and hay for up to 2 horses for a minimum of 30 days and a maximum of 60 days. And we feel that in that 60 days, most horse owners are able to either find a part-time job, get their health back on track, potentially sell a horse if that's what they, if that's the direction they need to go to kind of downsize their herd. But the Kentucky Horse Council is very, very interested in protection of the equine community at large. So that means horse lovers, horse owners, the horses themselves, everything in between is what we seek to help. We're also known for our large animal emergency rescue training. Hold on, I think I have some pictures later in here that we'll skip to. Let me go to it now. So this is a really, really cool program that we offer once a year. So it's always in September. This year it's September 15, 16, and 17. We hosted at the Kentucky Horse Park, and our instructors are actually from Asheville, North Carolina. So their whole job, their whole business is traveling around the country and teaching people how to get horses out of potentially really bad situations. So like you can see up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a horse that's stuck in mud. The left would be a horse that is down, it can't rise. The bottom would be a horse that's down that they need to winch into a trailer. So basically they take everybody you can imagine, veterinarians, fire department, EMTs, police, and horse owners. We shove them all together and we basically teach them how to work together. And I say we, I mean our instructors. I definitely don't do that. I cheer and I take pictures and I provide the food. That's my job in that 3 days. But so Justin and Tori come in from North Carolina. They come in with this huge trailer and it has all these tools in it and things to teach you how to get horses safely out of really bad situations. So now if you guys have ever been around an emergency, half the people run around like chickens with their heads cut off, right? And then the other half just start barking orders and they're like, you do this, you do this, you do this. And never the two shall meet, right? So it becomes kind of a struggle between who has the right to say, I'm taking control of this situation, and this is what we're going to do. That's kind of tough, right? So this whole training basically teaches people how to work together. So what we always try to remind people is that the first priority in an emergency situation is the people. Right? Like we love horses. We don't want them to be hurt, but what we really don't want to happen is somebody to jump in that trailer and try to help the horse and then get hurt. Right? So now then you're dealing with a hurt person and a hurt horse, and you're trying to figure out how to get everything, out safely. So this is a 3-day training. It is open to auditors. If you guys ever want to just come and watch, it is fantastic. So they do a half a day in the classroom. We actually do it in the theater of the Kentucky Horse Park. I don't know if you guys have ever been in the Ovation Theater. So they do like 3 or 4 hours in a classroom. They learn how to do everything from like the rigging and things that are on that horse that are down in that lower right-hand picture to, we have to teach the EMTs and the police and the people who are not familiar with horses where they can and can't stand. We know that they shouldn't stand directly behind a horse or they might get kicked, but those guys don't know it. They might not be horse people. So the mornings are in the classroom, and then the afternoon we go out all over the Kentucky Horse Park. We're in the barns, we're back on the cross country field, we're in this way back archery area that I didn't even really know they had. It's a shooting range for the mounted cops. And it's just a really great class because it teaches you that the number one priority is always human safety. So it's normally the police or the EMTs almost always have top billing. So they're almost always the big boss, right? And then comes the veterinarians, and then comes the bystanders or the horse owners. So, and that's really hard. It's hard to tell horse owners, hey, don't panic. We got it. Let's walk away. They also teach you some tricks for interacting with that kind of group. But it is really good. It's $25 a day to audit. I promise I feed you tasty meals if you would want to come. But there is also a hands-on portion. You do have to be 16 to do the hands-on portion, but that is limited to the first 40 people. And we will open that in July. So we're also
Sarah, if I can interrupt you for 1 second, I'm not sure if you can see the chat box. We have someone asking if they go to your website.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So the best thing to do is go to our really terrible website. Don't be alarmed. And at the top, there's a button that says Join KHCE News. And if you click that, you'll get an email from us every Thursday. For the most part, you can probably just delete them unless you're interested. But that's where we'll put the very first release. So you guys will be the first ones to see it when that opens. But we would totally love, Jaden, if you could come with your mom, we would totally love to have you. It is a fantastic course. Like, it's just a really, really good course. And they have all kinds of pictures. So I'm always constantly like, how did a horse manage to do this, right? Like, they're constantly getting themselves in situations that you cannot imagine that they can get into. So thank you, Mary Jane. I apologize. I didn't see that.
Oh, you're fine. I'm quietly watching over here.
Good. So one of the other things that we're really well known for, and this focuses more on, it's still horse safety, but it also focuses on how to involve all of our people who seek to protect horses in Kentucky. So it's called our livestock investigation training. And so in the state of Kentucky, every county has an animal control officer. That is the Kentucky statute. Every county has to have an animal control officer. A lot of those animal control officers are really only familiar with dogs and cats, maybe chickens, like backyard chickens. They are not necessarily well-versed in handling large livestock. So what the Horse Council does is we do a 3-day training. Again, 3 days is like our lucky number. We do a 3-day training and we invite animal control officers, sheriffs, judge execs, people who are interested in equine rescue, anybody who's interested in how the legal part goes to a potential equine neglect or abuse case to come in and get this training. And for some of you guys, it would be old hat, right? It's like, this is how you put on a halter. This is how you lead. This is a skinny horse. This is a not skinny horse. This is the body condition scale, which I'm sure you guys have heard of, the Henneke scale. But again, to these people who might not have a lot of experience with horses, that's really important for them to learn. We also work really closely with the Bluegrass Stockyards. Mr. Jim Akers is absolutely fantastic to the Horse Council, and he lets me bring our attendees over and he teaches them the difference between, body condition in cows. Also, dairy and beef cows look totally different, right? Skinny cow is not a skinny cow is not a skinny cow. And then he actually takes the students who come in for those 3 days down into the stockyards and he teaches them, the flight zone of a cow, which is very, very different from the flight zone of a horse, right? Like, we can, for the most part, usually walk up to our horses and they don't run away. Cows, totally different, totally different. So we are actually launching something new this fall. We'll be working with Dr. Bob Coleman of the University of Kentucky, and we call it our LIT in a box, our livestock investigative training in a box. And we're taking the show on the road. And instead of doing a 3-day really intensive course, we're going to do just a 4-hour course in Western Kentucky. We're going to start in Western Kentucky. And then next year we'll do one in Western and one in Eastern. And it really is because we understand, not everybody has 3 days that they can travel to Lexington and stay in a hotel and, do all that stuff. Even though we, of course, would love to have as many people as could possibly come, we know that that's not always realistic. So for the horse portion in Lexington, we actually utilize the Secretariat Center, which is a racehorse retraining nonprofit based at the Kentucky Horse Park. So we're super spoiled here in Lexington. We've got all these places and people who can teach these classes and are really willing to help disseminate information, which is really important because a lot of the animal control officers, when they go into their job's super hard, right? Like, they get called into, maybe people don't feed their dogs or they chain them out and they see a lot of really bad stuff. So the other part of our training is not only do we show them this is a healthy horse, this is a healthy cow, we also show them here are a bunch of other people who you can rely on when you get stressed out or you have a question. It's The horse community is really good about relationships. Like, you guys know this. Anywhere you go, you can make a friend in the horse industry, right? That's why I've never worried about any of us ever moving to a different state or a different town. We can always make friends. And we try really hard to impart that feeling of we have everybody's backs in our livestock investigative training too, because it's a very hard job. Passion fatigue, if you guys ever heard of that, is very, very real. And those people can get very overwhelmed really, really rapidly. So we try really hard to make sure that they know that they're not on their own. You know, they've got a team who's fighting with them, and they have people in their corner if they have questions. So the other role that's kind of neat that we involve in that class is it's a state investigator. So in the state of Kentucky right now, we have coming 3, we're supposed to have 4, and they cover all 120 counties in Kentucky. It's a lot, right? For 4 people. Right now, 2 people, soon to be 3. So every potential, like if you guys were driving down the road and you see this horse and it's getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier as you drive by and you see it, you don't see any hay, you don't see any shelter, it just might be shivering if it's the winter. If you're concerned about that horse's welfare, you could actually go to the Kentucky Department of Ag website. And there's actually a link down there that says report neglect and abuse. And so if you go in there and you say, hey, there's a horse at 123, Cobbler's Corner in Lexington that I think is skinny, and I'd like to have somebody go look at it because I'm worried about it. Those questions go to one of the state investigators, and then they go out and look at it. So the state investigator's job is really, really neat. They don't do just horses. They actually do all livestock in the state of Kentucky. And every investigator is actually a cop. So they were a cop and then became a state investigator. So they have the ability to, they will always defer, but in theory, they would have the ability to arrest people. Like if there's somebody shipping cattle across the Tennessee state line into Kentucky, and they know they don't have their health paperwork, or that they're selling them illegally, or they're stolen, those investigators go in, they're totally like the SWAT team too. Like they stake them out, and they can pull them over and make sure they have all their paperwork and stuff. But those guys have an awesome job. I had never heard of a state investigator prior to probably about a year and a half ago. But they're fantastic people. They're a wealth of knowledge, and they actually come in for that livestock investigation training, and they teach them exactly how to follow the Kentucky laws. So this is what you do first. These are the pictures you take. This is who you contact, basically to make sure that if somebody is doing something illegal, that the animal control officer or other people involved don't make a silly mistake that could potentially kick that case out of court. So they have been a super valuable resource. I'm really, really lucky to get to work with them. And they are absolutely essential to that livestock investigative training. So we also do, this used to be called our Kentucky Equine Networking Association. We used to call it KENA. Nobody knew what KENA was. KENA is really confusing because it doesn't say Horse Council, right? So we rebranded it this past year, and we call it our Dinner and Discussions series. And we've held it a bunch of different places. The one on the left is actually held at Locust Trace Agri-Science Center in their indoor arena. They graciously let us use their horses and their facilities. And then the one on the right was actually held at Spy Coast Farm here in Lexington. It's a sport horse breeding facility. So pretty much what we do is I have a little committee, and it's made up of about 6 or 8 people. And we try to think of what is relevant to horse people today. Like right now, today, what are we worried about? Are we worried about infectious disease? Are we worried about the large vet shortage? Are we worried about what are these complementary modalities? What is acupuncture? What is chiropractic? And then we basically find a bunch of experts to come in and talk about it, and we serve them a good dinner. It is really fun. It's a very, very fun evening. Our new home for 2023 is actually going to be at the Kentucky Horse Park in their visitor center. And we're super lucky that they keep the gift shop open for us for an hour while it's just our Kentucky Horse Council attendees come in and they can shop and hang out. But it's a really great series. Our first one of the year is coming up on May 23rd, I believe. And it is talking about corrective shoeing for performance horses. So if you guys have anything that's foundered or has navicular, It is Dr. Raul Bras from Maroon Riddle is going to come in and talk about basically what he sees and how he shoes. He's probably he's one of the most amazing podiatrists, but he has just got a really good depth of information and background that he's going to be able to share with us. And it's going to be in speak that we can understand. It's not vet inferior speak. Yes, it's the join us button. Or no, I'm sorry. That's the membership. It should say scroll down below that. I wonder if I can screen share it with you. Hold on, Jaden. Can you see my screen? Does it show my website or does it still show my slide deck?
We can see the website.
Can you see where it says join the e-news right here? That's the button you'll click. Perfect. And apologies on our website. We are working on getting that updated. It's on the list. So before I chat about this stuff, since you had mentioned the Join Us tab, so we offer a whole bunch of different membership options. So you guys are students. You guys would join as a student member. It's $0. But we offer a whole bunch of really neat membership perks. So you get into the horse park at a discount, you get a discount in the gift shop at the horse park, you get a discount on visit horse country tours if you guys have any friends or family or you guys want to go on any tours. The horse magazine, it's a wonderful magazine. You get a discount on that. And then your parents, of course, if they want to join, they can get discounts to like Toro and Exmark and Farm Paint, John Deere, all the really big expensive things that I can't do. Additionally, a lot of people become members for the horse council for this $1 million liability insurance policy. That is really cool. It's $45 to join and to get that membership perk, that liability insurance. So like Miss Mary Jane mentioned, I came on in October of 2020. So I was here for about 6 months before we got the first floods in Eastern Kentucky in March of 2021. Unfortunately, we've had quite a few natural disasters since then. We had of course, the tornadoes in December of 21, and then the floods in July of 22. So I would never, ever tell you guys that a natural disaster is a good thing. However, it very much has made people understand that the Horse Council is here as a resource for them, which is probably the only positive I can tell you that has come out of those natural disasters. We have worked really hard with the University of Kentucky. We rely on a lot on their ag extension agents who are in those counties. I'm based in Lexington, Kentucky. I've got friends all over the state, but they don't necessarily have boots on the ground ability to tell me, hey, so-and-so's farm was damaged. They lost all their hay and they lost their barn. They might just be like, oh, I heard Joe Schmo down the street's in trouble. We have come to rely very, very heavily on the ag extension agents in each county to tell us kind of what's happening. Give us the real scoop. Like, what do you guys need? Do you need hay? Do you need fencing? And once we know, we can figure out how to get it there, right? So like I had been mentioning before about the animal control officers, the horse industry is so amazing to me about how much they want to help and protect each other. And that was really, really true with the floods. We had an outpouring of support. I can't tell you how many hundreds of people wanted to donate. And unfortunately, I had to say, you have to wait. And it was the same thing with the tornadoes. Those people lost so much, they didn't have buildings in which to store the hay and the feed and the things that people were trying to donate. So, but when I said, okay, tap the brakes, they were really good, and then when we were ready, for example, a lot of people feed round bale, to their horses. And what we ran into in Eastern Kentucky was that they had lost their tractors. They didn't have, and their flatbeds, they didn't have a way to move these big round bales. So we had to specifically ask for small square bale to be able to disseminate them to all of the horse owners who were affected by the floods. And you can see in some of those pictures, the bottom one was just a bunch of hay that we had delivered. The top was some of the flooding we saw. The right-hand side was the Kentucky Horse Park graciously let us use the Alltech Arena when we were staging for right after the tornadoes. So they let us use that facility to stage before we started shuffling things down into the affected counties. So like I had mentioned to you guys, I feel very strongly that life is all about relationships, right? So it's like, who do we know? Who can we help? How can we be a stronger agricultural community in the state of Kentucky? And we've worked very, very hard with a couple different organizations to figure out how we can assist each other. And the one organization in particular is called the Kentucky Livestock Coalition, and they are amazing. So it's basically every commodity you can think of. So it's sheep, goat, poultry, dairy cattle, beef cattle. It's also soybean, corn, meat processing plants, excuse me. So it's this whole group of people who all want to get together and see ag succeed in Kentucky. And we all understand that, if what's good for one is good for all of us. So we work really hard to protect each other. And to do that, we've also been able to offer some additional educational resources. So, and I have no idea if you guys have seen them, and they do these ag in the classroom lessons that Miss Mary Jane has definitely been involved in. And it teaches, it basically teaches even non-horse kids about horsey, either how they see or how the grass grows and why the limestone in our soil is so important for our horses here. But it's a really great program. Again, I knew nothing about it until I started at the Horse Council, but I've just fallen in love with it. And also the KDA ag trailers that will come to your school. They're huge, huge trailers you get to do all kinds of fun science projects with them. And finally, this is something I should say with the caveat, don't look at it yet. We're working on we have a stall in the kids' barn at the Kentucky Horse Park. So it's very, very old and very, very not fun right now. We are working on making it to represent and respect the breeds that are native to the state of Kentucky. So we're working on featuring the standardbred and the saddlebred and the thoroughbred and the Kentucky Mountain Horse, and we're hoping to really be able to highlight those breeds within our stall. We are right next to UK's stall, which is like the biggest, most beautiful thing you've ever seen. So it makes ours look even worse. One new initiative that we've gotten to work with just in the last probably 6 months or so is Miss Kentucky. Miss Hannah Edelson she's a horse girl, but she's also really interested in education. That's her passion, right? Like she loves kids, she loves reading, she loves the horses, and she's been able to tie all of her passions together, and she authored a book. She actually authored 2 books, but this one, the one on the right called Honey the Horse and Kentucky Proud, she let us, because it's a self-published book, she let us put a little bit of information in the back. It has our Kentucky license plate, a little bit of information about the Horse Council. And we are selling, we call them our stuffies. The one on the left is a hand crocheted stuffed animal that's Honey the horse. And she has a Kentucky Horse Council patch on her hoof. So we are getting ready to launch those on our website. And Miss Hannah is also going to be bringing them into schools. I think she has 50 school visits left until her reign as Kentucky Queen ends. She is just, if you guys ever get to meet her, she's just darling. Like she's really fun, and she has so much fun. She has so much fun when she visits those schools. Like I had mentioned to you guys, we do a lot with the University of Kentucky. I don't know if you guys had heard, we did a big push for it last June, July, and August, but we did this equine survey. So the first survey that was done in the state of Kentucky since 1978 was actually 2012. And it was a true economic impact survey. They wanted to know how much money did the horses bring in? How much money did all the jobs around the horses bring in? The feed companies and the transportation companies and the bloodstock agencies and all this kind of stuff. This survey wanted to know how many horses are in your county, what breeds are they, what do you do with them, right? So again, we're non-breed, non-discipline specific. We love all horses in Kentucky, but we want to make sure that we know who's where and what do you ride, or do you ride at all? Maybe you just have retired horses in your backyard. That's what we wanted to know about. There's also a USDA ag census that went out. And for people like me, I own 1 horse. I was never counted in that census, right? Because I don't make money off my horses. I lose a lot of money on my horses. I don't make any money on my horses. So we really wanted to make sure that we could partner with the University of Kentucky and make sure that we did an actual count of how many horses are here in the state. And we actually did a county by county breakdown. So you guys will get that. We are hoping to launch that press release the week after Derby. We just didn't want to get lost. You know, we know that there's a big to-do around the Derby, and we wanted to make sure that our information didn't get lost in there. So you'll see that information starting to come out, and it's super helpful if you guys ever have to do school projects or 4-H projects, or maybe in a couple of years you want to launch a business and you're like, well, maybe I want to run an equine laundry. How many horses are in such and such county? The information that's provided in this survey will really be able to help you. So these are just some pictures. That's, of course, I'm sure you guys know Dr. Fernanda Camargo. So the University of Kentucky was absolutely instrumental, not just in their ag extension agents, but in helping us basically mount a response to be able to assist the horse owners who had been affected by the floods. So Fernanda did an unbelievable job making sure that we were able to have vaccines that we brought down. You know, the horses that were in the floodwaters were basically exposed to a lot of the waterborne pathogens. You know, that's what we were worried about. Not only were we worried that they didn't have enough food to eat or fresh water, we wanted to make sure that they remained safe as well. So Bernice Amberhe, that is her next to Dr. Fernanda. She runs the Appalachian Horse Project, which is based in Breathitt County. And she's also amazing. She was probably the point person for every single flooded property that had a horse in Eastern Kentucky during those floods. And she was incredible. Fernanda also sits on the Appalachian Horse Project's board, which is why they're also really good friends. So I know that that was really short and sweet. I try really hard to make sure people know that if you have any questions about anything in the state of Kentucky and you don't know who to call, I would truly, truly consider it an honor if you would consider calling the Horse Council.